Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Quarantine Podcast.
I am Somin.
And I am Nikhil. This is a podcast to give you an overview of computational gastronomy, food pairing, the molecular basis of taste, health impacts of food, novel recipe generation, and models of culinary evolution. I'm so glad that you can join us. Check out our previous episode over on Spotify and our YouTube channel RedBiz. Now, it's the time to introduce our special guest of today's episode.
So for today's special episode, we have a special guest as well. We have with us Dr. Ganesh Bhaglar, a pioneer in the field of computational gastronomy. Dr. Ganesh Bhaglar is also credited with the discovery of contrasting food pairing in Indian cuisine. He is also the head complex system lab at IIITD, which has helped establish the foundation of emerging interdisciplinary field of computational gastronomy that encompasses data analysis, food, flavor molecules. Dr. Ganesh has also spoken about his vision to transform the culinary landscape in India through various forums such as TEDx, International Chef Conclave, Knowledge Conclave at IIT Guwahati, to name a few. A recipient of the Outstanding Educator Award from IIT Delhi in 2018, Dr. Ganesh is a researcher who specializes in multidisciplinary fields such as physics, math, computers, computational biology. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us today. We are delighted to have you.
Thank you, Nikhil and Somin.
So, sir, to begin with our session, I would like to first ask you, you have a very diverse background, starting with from physics, then to computational gastronomy. So, what has been your journey like? Can you put some light on it?
Yes. So, first of all, I would like to thank you as well as NIFTM, student body for conducting this podcast and having me come and talk about computational gastronomy and related topics. My journey has been that from physics to computer science to computational biology to all the way up to computational gastronomy. I, as a teenager, was aspiring to be an astronomer and an astrophysicist, and I was in fact training in it. So that's how this has been a long journey from astronomy to gastronomy. I never expected myself to be working in the area of computational or gastronomy for that matter, being a food agnostic. But it has taken a circuitous route and a serendipitous path to be able to reach here. And my motivation largely to be, when I am standing here, when I look back on the whole journey that I have done, the motivation has been to do something exciting and ask interesting questions. That's how it has turned out to be.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Your journey is really very interesting and very inspiring. So, sir, moving ahead to my next question, sir, if I would talk about the definition of computational gastronomy, what I have understood it's relating an art of cooking to the computers, right, sir?
Pretty much.
So, sir, would you please put some more light on the term computational gastronomy and how the idea of computational gastronomy was conceived in your mind, so our audience can have a clear understanding of what we are going to discuss about?
Computational gastronomy is a blend of food with data and computation for data-driven food innovations. That's the idea behind it. For the last few decades, various areas have been transformed by the introduction of large amount of data, terabytes of data, in addition to the power of computation. And we are all living in this new world where we are enabled, facilitated by the data, by the power of data and computation.
Right.
Food is one area which is rather artistic. People look at it as an intuitive field, and a lot of artistic endeavor is involved when it comes to food. So what computational gastronomy tries to do, that in this 21st century, it tries to blend food with data and computation such that we are hoping to create a new era where food can be transformed for better health, better taste, and better nutrition. And to coming back to your last bit of your question about how did I conceive it in my mind, well, quite clearly, 5 years back, this was nowhere in my mind. Serendipitously, I started working on Indian cuisine in 2015. And after making an interesting observation about food pairing pattern in Indian cuisine and the role of spices in it, well, it has taken 2 to 3 years, after which I realized that all of these are part of a big jigsaw piece of puzzle, and all of this needs to be developed further and probably named also. And that's why I have named it and called it computational gastronomy.
Okay. Sir, it sounds very interesting. You have a huge data on recipes which are being practiced since ancient times all over the world. So my question is that most of these recipes are logged into the local cultures and household communities. So how you have collected and compiled that data? Like what were the methods and techniques you have used for the same?
Well, thank you for asking that question. And I must tell you that this is one of the questions that has been bothering us for a while now. I must correct you on one point there, is that our compilation of recipes incidentally doesn't account for some of the ancient recipes and older recipes.
Okay.
Most of the data of recipes that we are holding with us are contemporary recipes which are cooked and practiced even today, right?
Right, sir.
And because we are dealing with this in a computational manner, we are also limited by how we collect our recipes and create a repository out of it. Most of the data has been collected through online repositories such as allrecipes.com, tarradalal.com, ndtv.com, and many such online repositories which are out there, which pool recipes from various people. They are the ones which we have put together, whereas the actual recipes which are practiced in local cultures and household communities are the variations of the recipes are not collected with as much detail in our repository, although we intend to do that in the future.
Thank you, sir. And sir, speaking about recipes, can you also tell us, you treat recipes as a living object? Can you tell us something about their evolution? And while collecting and putting them in a database, what kind of computational power is required? Do you use supercomputers or some artificial intelligence or something like that?
Well, first of all, yes, we treat recipes as almost like a living thing, and that is why its evolution and how it has changed over a period of time. In fact, we look at them as also analogous to languages. Remember that cultures across the world have evolved different languages, very, very unique and different to different geographies. In a similar manner, they have evolved different cuisines in their own areas. We believe that recipes can be seen as living entities, somewhat like languages, and can be seen from their evolution perspective. So we have worked on that. When it comes to computational algorithms and the computational infrastructure that we are using, well, incidentally, we don't have to so far use supercomputers because it is not the volume of the data which is important, but it is the veracity or the complexity of the programs that we use which makes this task far more challenging and interesting. And we use high performance computing, but not necessarily supercomputers per se for our tasks.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay,
and sir, the models which you develop, you deal with various type of models for flavor prediction or developing recipes. So how accurate are those models?
Very good question. Good question, right? Because no models all models are false and some are useful. That's the catchphrase about the models, right? Our models, depending on which model you are looking at, we have built machine learning models, artificial intelligence techniques we have used for both for coming up with predictions about health-related implications as well as predicting the taste of a molecule. These have accuracy anywhere between 85% to 90%. So they are not 100% accurate. That's a level of accuracy, but this is state of the art. This is the best that you can achieve in today's date.
Yes, sir. Since we have talked about the model, so my next question is, sir, what is the concept of novel recipe generation and how this data-centric and evidence-driven approach to the food is helping to develop algorithms for novel recipe generations.
Okay, thanks for asking that question. This particular direction remains novel recipe generation is one of the biggest thrust areas in my lab at the moment. What's the idea behind this? Well, the idea is very simple, is that novel recipes today are generated or over time have been generated thanks to the intuition and artistic abilities of human intelligence. These are the human beings who, thanks to a huge amount of data that they have gathered over a period of time about the recipes, the ingredients that go into it, the protocols which are used, because of which they can come up with variations and come up with new recipes. Question is, can we train a computer to understand the nuances of the recipes that are available today and come up with novel recipes? Well, that's a question we are asking in our lab, and we are at an early stage of this particular development. It is going to take no less than anywhere between 7 to 10 years before we can have a perfect algorithm which can generate a recipe which will be cooked and will be tasted and will be found palatable and tasty by a human being. Nonetheless, the foundation of this remains in terms of structured data gathered about the recipes in terms of what ingredients, which category, which plant, what is the scientific name of it, what kind of taste, what kind of molecules it is having, what kind of tastes these molecules have. All of this structured information are being gathered in our lab. We have databases called RecipeDB of recipes across the world. We have database of flavor molecules called FlavorDB and DietRx, which is about health implications. By putting all of this together, we are building the foundation towards moving in a direction where hopefully computers will be able to cook. I always like to give this interesting example of the movie Ratatouille. I'm sure all of you have seen the movie Ratatouille.
Right, sir.
Yes, sir.
The movie Ratatouille has a catchphrase by Chef Gustav. He keeps on saying that anyone can cook, right? So the question that we are asking, a very challenging and interesting question that we are asking is that, can computers cook? And I know most of the people will have an answer to saying that, come on, this is absolutely impossible. How can an inanimate thing can cook, right? So we are trying to move in a direction where possibly an inanimate thing can build up the intelligence of a real chef and hopefully will be able to cook.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
By listening to this, I remember your quote from TEDx that humanity is more happier when we find a new recipe than we find a new star.
Right. The quote goes more like this, that the discovery of a dish makes humanity more happier than the discovery of a new star.
And sir, I would also like to know about what are the business opportunities by using computational gastronomy? How can we apply it to create our own businesses?
Good. So going beyond the fundamental questions that we are asking about the evolution of the cuisine, the taste basis of the food, health implications of the food, quite clearly, one is obviously interested in knowing what are the possible implications for trade, business and enterprise. That's what one would like to do. Well, while these are early days, I can also tell you that multinational food and beverages company, FMCG companies, have used our research in culinary fingerprinting and related areas of food pairing, etc., to leverage this research for generating new products. So developing new products, developing new food beverage pairing, finding out healthier recipes are some of the directions in which one can come up with potential business opportunities. And to give an example, in fact, we have already created a startup called Ayushla, and this Ayushla is along with somebody called Rishi Agarwal. I am a co-founder with that, and we are working on generating Ayurvedic recipes. And apart from that, my lab itself has come up with a new startup called Gastronomica SciTech, which is heavily dependent on data-driven food innovations.
Wow, sir, that's very interesting.
That's really fascinating. Since you have spoken about this fingerprinting, culinary fingerprinting, can you explain it? What is it?
it's more like DNA fingerprinting. DNA fingerprinting uniquely identifies a human being. You can look at the DNA of an individual and can figure out who he or she is by simply looking at patterns in the DNA sequence. In the same manner, what culinary fingerprinting does is for cuisine. So can you identify or distinguish a Bangla cuisine from that of a Marathi cuisine, from that of a Tamilian cuisine, etc.? If you ask that question, then data analytics and data-driven analysis can be of value. What we have done is to find patterns about what are the combinations of the ingredients, what are the kind of molecules which go together in one cuisine, which are the ingredient categories which are dominant in one cuisine versus the other cuisine. And all of these patterns, when put together, constitute what could be now called as a culinary fingerprint, which allows us to distinguish one cuisine from the other cuisine. So that's what overall the culinary fingerprinting is all about.
Okay, that sounds good,
Right.
sir. Okay, so sir, moving ahead, sir, I was watching one of your TEDx video in which you started your speech with very simple and basic question, which probably none of us even thought about, that why we eat what we eat. And answer to that was equally intriguing to know that according to the concept of food pairing, Indians match unlike food types together. Sir, can you please tell us what are the health effects of this type of food pairing and how can computational gastronomy in general be used to cure diseases?
All right. So you are asking a question which for me was the beginning of my journey of food. So, that of looking at Indian cuisine and trying to look at food pairing pattern in the Indian cuisine. That's where I started working in food. Well, we made two interesting observations. One was that Indian cuisine is characterized by a contrasting food pairing pattern, which is very different, unique compared to the rest of the world. That was one observation that we made. Secondly, we observed that spices, as opposed to other ingredient categories such as dairy, lentils, fruits, etc., spices is the major contributor to the food pairing pattern, meaning that you may replace one vegetable with another vegetable in Indian recipes per se, not disturbing the food pairing pattern as much. But if you were to swap one spice with another spice, that will disturb the food pairing pattern dramatically. That is what we observed, right?
Right.
Talking about health implications of food pairing, well, I must tell you frankly that we do not have health implications connected with food pairing as such. Whether having such a food pairing pattern in Indian cuisine, does it make it more healthy or not? We do not have any idea of that. Although I must tell you that Ayurveda has had this concept of Viruddha Ahara, of what food can be eaten together or should not be eaten together. We are still investigating what could be the possible connection between the food pairing patterns that we observe and what might be advised by Ayurvedic patterns. So we are still doing that. To answer your last question, that about can we use computational gastronomy for curing diseases? I'll be little careful. I'll be little careful in weighing my words when I say that. We have investigated and have created a database called DietRx, which basically compiles food and their disease associations. For example, ginger and how good or bad it is against cardiovascular disorders, garlic, and around 1800 such food ingredients and their health benefits, which have been scientifically reported. These are all scientific publications. 38,000 research articles have been pulled together in a single umbrella called DietRx.
Okay.
Now we are trying to use this for creating better recipes. The idea here is, can we use these ingredients in a selective manner such that they can be beneficial against at least lifestyle disorders, wherein food is known to be an important component. For example, obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disorders. Can we design a diet which is better against this? Well, we are working on that, and I believe it can be done.
Last question from my side. What is the molecular theory of taste and how molecular gastronomy is related to computational gastronomy?
Well, taste has been investigated for a long period now, and it's very complex. The basis of odor and taste, both of them, is very complex when it comes to molecular level, right? Molecular gastronomy tries to recreate the taste of a dish at the level of molecules by putting together certain molecules. It tries to, or certain chemicals, it tries to recreate the taste of a particular dish, right? That's what it attempts to do.
Right.
That is the objective of molecular gastronomy. Whereas computational gastronomy, as the name goes, is focused on using the power of data, computation in the context of food, its ingredients, recipe, patterns in the recipe, health associations, all of that which can be put together in a data-driven format. So our work, that of computational gastronomy, is heavily data-driven and is very divergent from what molecular gastronomy attempts to do.
Yes, sir. And sir, this is a very, very interesting field. Like, after listening to it, I'm very excited to learn more about it. So are there any opportunities, any courses or any internships or trainings that you provide, or from where we can learn about computational gastronomy? Is there any certified course?
Well, thanks for asking that question. As of now, there is no certified course as such, but there is one course that I have launched on Google Classroom, and it's available on YouTube as well. By the way, there are certain classes which have already become available on YouTube if you search by computational gastronomy, right? It's a computational gastronomy 101 course, which is a beginning course which is intended for giving introduction to this new area. That's first thing that you can do. Second, there is a book which is under progress, which is being written on computational gastronomy, and hopefully it should be released in a matter of another year or so, which will be available to you for learning part.
It sounds good, sir. So we are very much excited for your upcoming book on computational gastronomy. And we suggest our listeners, if you wish to learn more about computational gastronomy, then do check out this introductory course on YouTube with the name of Computational Gastronomy 101.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really a wonderful session with you. We gained a lot of knowledge and insight about this amazing field of computational gastronomy. So I guess it's time to wind up. Thanking everyone for tuning in to our podcast. I hope you all have got the gist of this exciting field of computational gastronomy and want to explore more about it. If you have any question or suggestion, you can always write to us at contact@redbus.in.
Once again, thank you for joining us today and stay tuned to Complete Freedom.